Whoa, can you guys see that? Dude,
Oh
what
my gosh,
is
I
that?
can't see it at
Wait,
all.
can you see that? I think this will help. Cal contact. Contact after. Wait. The decision is clear. Cal contact is an alternative way to distribute post-LASIK medication back into the eye. Regular, boring eye drop medications can be seen as super, I say extremely ineffective. On the graph to your right-hand side, the red line indicates the effectiveness of medication over time. You can see that once the medication is applied to the eye, it takes a depressing plummet down to being only 18%. This is due to the washout of reflexive tearing as well as reflexive blinking. A solution to this would be our amazing Cal contacts. These dissolvable contacts have a controlled release of medication and is only applied once a day to decrease infection rates. On the picture to your right-hand side, you can see that medication from eye drops as well as contacts can be compared side by side. About an hour or so, you can see that there's still medication visible in the contact lens while all of the medication in the eye drops have been diluted. Cal contacts increases the medication's bioavailability to provide patients with faster healing. There are two stages to the structure of these contact lenses. The first stage would be, obviously, the polyvinyl alcohol hydrogel. This disperses two types of medications in the eye using a nano Pharmaco Zones. The second stage would be a PVH shell, which lubricates the eye and prevents dry eyes from occurring.
We use a PVAH base because it is water soluble and is more oxygen permeable than your typical silicone hydrogel lens, and it is also more comfortable for the patient. In the contacts, there are Pharmaco Zones, which are nano-sized vesicles, and with them, we are able to release the medication in a controlled manner, and the medications being bromphenic and anti-inflammatory, and trimethoprim and antibacterial. And in this graph, as you can see, the blue line represents how the release of the medication in the contact without Pharmaco Zones. As you can see, it is a sad 60%. However, in the three upper lines is how the Pharmaco Zones in the medication is. And as you can see, it is 80% and higher.
For the first 6 months, we're only $1.5 million to have FDA approval along with testing. For our next 8 months, we will need $800,000 in order to have a manufacturing facility to mass produce this product. For the next 3 months, we'll need $100,000 for social media use, along with talking to optometrists and LASIK surgeons to have our product known and out there. For the next 4 months, we'll need $1 million to distribution because we want to distribute through trucks, ships, and our main goal is to introduce this internationally. Our main competitor would be the nano wafer, which is the technology advancement of having dissolvable contacts like we do. There's difference is the target market is towards glaucoma and our target market is towards post-LASIK. Our marketing analysis today is there's 30 million people out there that partake in this surgery. Eye drops make $15 billion a year. We can give you a piece of this pie right here. We can give you $6.3 billion with a B. Our first pair of contacts will be $20, making us 800% in profit, and our PVAH contacts is $2.45, making over 500% in profit. We expected to be the first 3 months to introduce to 150,000 consumers, making you over $35 million in profit. Why we are different, we're for dry eye and along with anti-inflammatory, we can make it towards you and specialize towards you. Also, we are $245, being 50% cheaper than eye drops out there at $500. Oh my gosh. We're more effective than eye drops and we're more efficient than eye drops. Our vision, mission, and values, we want to provide an effective and efficient release of medication. Our mission is to create cheap and accessible pair of dissolving contacts, and our value is to people who undergo LASIK surgery to have a comfortable healing process and life without impaired vision. Before LASIK surgery, you have to fumble around in the middle of the night trying to grab your glasses or having to constantly buy prescriptive contacts. And after LASIK surgery, the problem is it's a make it or break it. The healing process is so crucial and eye drops aren't even that effective. We can open the door for having Cal contacts, a dissolvable pair of contacts that gives you the right kind of medication, being efficient, effective, convenient, and comfortable for the user. And obviously, on a side note, we want to make a profit for you.
Thank you. These are our references.
First of all, Howard's probably going to want to talk to you with all those billions of dollars of profit you're going to generate. So my question is this. I read your proposal, and I have the following question. How do you feel about the fact that your product will have to be tested on animals?
So animal testing is a standard part of testing contact lenses and other uses for eye drops because you can't properly try and do it with other like in vitro testing. So while it is very unfortunate, it is much better to test on animals before testing on humans. And so we want to make sure that people get the most optimal treatment with no unnecessary side effects. So we have to make sure that people get the best that they deserve.
So I'm always going to be the one who's going to ask you the science and engineering questions. So stop. Go back one. So you have this graph that shows this release. So you haven't made your product yet. So this is clearly from some related system. Can you tell us what is this related system and why do you believe that this will accurately reflect the behavior of your contacts? That's my first question. And then my second question is, they're degradable. What are the degradation products and how do they get flushed away?
This graph is from the stomach system, and the blue line shows it without pharmacosomes, and the upper line show it with pharmacosomes. And from the stomach, you can see that with pharmacosomes, it is more effective.
And so the first line, which has a 60% efficiency, it shows the drugs just being injected into the stomach. And with the F1, F2, F3, and F4, it all uses pharmacosomes with varying ratios of pharmacosome to drug. And so then the pharmacosomes act as increasing the solubility of the medications so that they can be properly absorbed into the surrounding body.
But the stomach is a very different environment than the eye. So do you have evidence that this data will also hold in the eye?
I can answer that question.
The testing was to prove if pharmacosomes can provide as a reservoir, and if it's possible, and pharmacosomes will be a reservoir for us to have the medication with Bofinic and trimethoprim, then it is possible for more testing and see the hydrogel and how it will work with PVAH. And our idea is if it works here scientifically, then it should work on a real setting of having a hydrogel. Although it's your stomach acid that we're dealing with, I'm pretty sure there's contents of pharmacosomes that is not used in the stomach.
Oh, you said another question. Could you please repeat that?
Can I remember what it was? What?
The byproducts.
Oh, byproducts. What are the byproducts and how are they flushed away and are they irritants?
So the PVAH is structured with several crosslinks, and we can adjust the size of these crosslinks to change the size to make the dissolve rate different. And then the crosslinks are usually, since they're extremely small, they're not dissolvable on the surface of the eye. So then they'll just be treated kind of like a different foreign particle like dirt, or they'll just be flushed away through reflexive tearing into the nasolacrimal ducts.
In your time scale, there was I think the FDA approval process, right? Mm-hmm. Are you going through the 510K process, or what process are you going to go through? What do you need to go through, I guess?
I think we need to go to prove long-term effects of the medication on whatever we test on, and we'll have data behind them to have it FDA approved. The most important thing is if the product works, and during the long time run, for what we test on, which we believe would be mice, to see is if it's feasible, if it's possible, and there's no side effects that happens into our product, and that's how I think we believe we'll have it FDA approved. So I'm thinking the 510K.
Okay, so are you going to base that on a precedent product that you're going to create that it's not any worse off? What type of 510K process do you envision? That's actually a pretty fairly short period. Are you going to be what class? Class 1, class 2, class 3? Do you guys know?
We'll get back to you on that.
Are there any more questions, please?
Yeah. So. Kind of going off the regulatory, but speaking about reimbursement, you mentioned the eye drop solution is $500, I believe, per treatment. Do you want to go? Yeah. So 500 per treatment, and your product you're proposing around 250, 245. Why are eye drops so much more expensive when the complexity to produce is probably a lot lower? Is it the reimbursement rate is $500, or?
Oh, so we're using different medications, and these medications have a lower cost, and the packaging cost is different, I believe. And so with our medications, they had to be compatible with the Pharmaco Zones, and the Pharmaco Zones needed to have medications that were either lipophilic or hydrophilic, whereas the standard medications were steroidal, so they were hydrophobic. And so then we had to change to bromphenic, which is an anti-inflammatory that is lipophilic, so would properly bond with the pharmacosomes. And the other antibacterial medicine that we used, which is trimethoprim, is also a lot cheaper than other antibiotics used for eye drop medication. And these have been tested as post-LASIK treatments. In fact, the bromphenic actually had a higher speed of treatment than the other steroidal anti-inflammatory medications.
I have one more quick question, and this is a hard one. So you have these little pharmacosomes, which are just droplet reservoirs. How big are the drops? Because when they get big, they scatter light. And a contact
so they are
has to be
50 nanometers
clear.
in diameter,
Huh?
and they're 50 nanometers in diameter. And our mentors actually provided us with a formula to measure if they would actually refract any light. Do you want to know the specific formula? Or?
Well, no, I want to know if they'll make clear contacts.
So to answer the class 1, 2, and 3 FDA, we're not too sure about that, but obviously our contacts are very, very simple in materials, and to have it FDA approved with the medication is very simple, along with just what we need to do is to make sure PVAH is a moisturized enough hydrogel that dissolves properly into the eye. And so we'll have that data provided with the FDA approval since the materials are very, very simple with using only a few ingredients.
Going back to the question about the light refracting, so since the formula that we used was the radius of the pharmacosomes had to be less than lambda over 2 pi n, where lambda was the wavelength and n was the index of refractivity. And so then when we plugged all this in, it had to be less than about 30 nanometers radius, and so our radius is 25 nanometers, so it would not refract any light.
Are you looking for a job?
I'm not 16 yet, so it's not legal.
So then I won't pay you. The other question I had was the current issues with eye drops. What are the costs from a health side and costs from the consumer side to pay for treatments in addition or other issues, just so I can get a better sense of what the cost per conversion is?
Okay, so this is a high-end product since LASIK surgery is up to $4,000. So it's people who have disposable money and the high income, and especially in Southern California, of how we want to look our best and have feeling of our best. So we don't want to wear glasses or prescriptive contacts. Eye drops are so expensive is because of lettergrass and other types of ingredients in there. They don't use just simple materials like we do, along with the packaging for the eye drops itself. And they have to be 100% efficient when you first put it into the eye, but they dilute over time due to reflexive blinking and tearing. That's why it's so expensive, because people have to continuously buy it, and the average cost with that is $500 because it's very ineffective, and you will wake up in the middle of the night with oh my gosh, I have dry eye, or oh my gosh, my eye is burning, I need help kind of thing. But our product is dissolving, and we hope of our goal to dissolve in 12 hours so you can sleep with the contact in, and it'll just kind of dilute slowly throughout your eye, and with your reflexive tearing, it'll be fine throughout the night. You can sleep safe and soundly.
I think this will be the last question, but go ahead.
So in the teams in the presentation, how you all work together. So this is a nice sized team, and there's a lot of information. How do you approach it? Because some people seem very science oriented, and how do you look at this as a team? Because as you go through life, as we said, it's understanding everyone's strength and what they can give to a.
When we first formed the team, we all and decided on our topic, we all decided to research on our own, and we would have frequent meetings besides with our mentor, on our own. We would meet up and talk about the articles, and we would add on to the PowerPoint that we had. And then from there, we split up the slides not really accordingly to what we did, just so that it would be easier to present the slides and less transitionings.
And then some people did science, some people designed some of the posters that we had shown in our presentation. Other people focused on the business. We focused on like editing everything and stuff like that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.